That's been updated. Anyone discern from this what Mr. Courier's employment is with ASD? Again, it doesn't appear to be specified. You know, Mr. Courier. Yeah, Mr. Whiting says he has no ability to make decisions with respect to his son's company, but I don't see an explanation of what Mr. Courier actually does for the school district.
Yeah, that's
how it may or may not be related to the unmanned aerial education his son is providing.
I didn't know about that.
I know, I didn't know we did that either. It's very exciting. I would like some unmanned aerial education.
Yeah, it just says that he's an ASD employee. Which doesn't...
Can we find that out through an employee search on the website? Positions. I know the state gives us titles. I just don't know if the school district does.
That's a good question. I can come up quickly, see if we find them. The other thing we can do is we could do what we did last time with Mr. Hamels and send it back for designation of his. It's very unclear. I would propose we ask that to be amended just for this position so we have a complete record of having reviewed what he actually does for the school district.
I mean, the letter does say he has no influence on the ability of his son's company to obtain school district business.
True.
Can we rely on Mr. Whiting's representation, or do you think we...
Generally speaking, we look again, like we do a double check of like, okay, this person has this position and this is the interest, and we ask questions. If we say, well, it sounds like you're in charge of procurement, and or like you're in charge of the volleyball team and you're selling volleyball supplies, so tell us more, and then we'll invite people in if they have further questions. I'm personally reluctant without knowing what he is, because Mr. Whiting's letters always say the same form, and we kind of, our role is like the double check to make sure we agree with them.
That's fine. This is just after my week of work where I realized we kept sending applications back to people for something we could get on the internet, and it just really frustrated me that we were delaying people's progress for that. But this isn't stopping this gentleman from working, so.
No, it isn't. And Terry, I don't know if you, I don't know a way to get, if there's, Terry has a computer in front of him, so I asked him whether there's a quick way to find people's positions at ASD or not.
I did a quick search for him in ASD and nothing came up.
Okay.
All right. He's not losing any opportunity. I see no problem sending him there.
Otherwise,
Okay, do I have a motion for regarding the group of economic disclosures?
Move to approve.
with the exception of 1E that we're going to send back.
Right.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor of approving all of these disclosures with the exception of 1E, which we will send back for further information, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, those are approved. Okay, and then we move on to unfinished business. Our only item remaining under unfinished business being ethics complaint for potential violation 2022-2. And today we have multiple guests who will be with us to discuss the contents of that complaint. We have I believe we have the complainant. So we use Dr. Child, are you back there? Hi. And I know we have Assembly Member Allard with us, and we have another guest who will be coming in a few minutes is scheduled to come. I had discussed with the clerk, talking first with the complainant and then with our second guest who's coming from the police department and then with Assembly Member Allard. We so pursuant to AS 4462-310, the Open Meetings Act, we do conduct all matters which are required by ordinance to be conducted in executive session, and pursuant to the municipal code to AMC 115.160E, we are directed to protect the confidentiality of complainants or witnesses coming toward the board, except insofar as may be necessary to enable us to carry out our duties. So pursuant to that, we conduct interviews in executive session. So I will entertain a motion to enter into executive session to begin the first of our interviews regarding AM's ethics complaint for potential violation 2022-2.
Do we need to discuss?
Yes, I could just declare, I did not witness the event, but I heard many statements regarding this event, and I believe I would be defending Assemblyman Allard. So that probably sounds like I'm more of a witness than someone who should be deliberating on the ethical violation. That's without looking at the code. But again, I wasn't a witness to the actual event, but know enough about it that I think the accusation is inaccurate.
Okay. Well, so pursuant to the code, we look to 115.060D, the general rule being that a public servant shall not participate in an official action in which the public servant or member of the public servant's immediate family has a substantial financial or private interest. And prior to participation, the public servant shall disclose the financial or private interest for determination of whether they're substantial. So I hear you disclosing a substantial private interest, potentially.
And my position toward COVID was fairly well known.
In the outcome of the matter. The code does give us these factors to consider, which are not exclusive or determinative, but which are informative. So, and they are whether the interest is a substantial part of the matter under consideration, whether the interest directly or substantially varies with the outcome of the official action, whether the interest is immediate and known or conjectural and dependent on factors beyond the official action, whether the interest is significant monetarily, which I don't hear being a factor here, whether it's an interest which is the type that's generally possessed by the public or a large class of persons, and other factors deemed appropriate by the presiding official and the specifics of the disclosure and the nature of the action. So with that framing, how do you feel you would speak to your interest?
I think my interest is the same as the members of the public, but I don't believe it's a fair process for someone to come to this decision with their position already determined.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe that's fair to the claimant. That said, if the vote becomes, I'm a little concerned if the vote of the rest of the board, I guess you can make your own opinion without me testifying as a fact witness. I'm more concerned about the fairness also for the process for the persons being accused, knowing what I believe I know. So I would weigh in favor of me stepping down, but I would like to stay in the room, and perhaps if I hear anything that is of concern, I wouldn't make myself a witness, but perhaps I could identify other witnesses. Does that sound? And the issue is, I don't believe I have an interest different from the public, but it would be like having me witness a car accident that was coming forward and giving you my take when I haven't been called as a witness by anybody. I'm new to the board, and here I'm already creating ethical problems.
No, that's fine.
I take ethics very seriously.
A question that was referred to us by the assembly actually was, how these questions frame how a decision is made to make sure that we make the appropriate determinations about when people should be compelled to serve and hear an item, even if they might feel conflicted, and when people should be recused in the interest of a fair process.
I don't think I could be fair to the complainant.
And to
really
me,
don't.
that is the dispositive item. Like, to me, I think that I don't think as a public body, any of us could, like, we can offer to do our function in this specific instance. And I hear you saying very frankly and honestly that you don't feel like you can be objective in this instance because of your personal experience. So I think it is appropriate. That is a substantial personal conflict which merits refusal. Is my determination as the presiding officer of the board. And I believe there's a process that, let's see here. Members of the body, so the presiding officer exercises parliamentary authority in making an initial ruling, and so my determination is that Ms. Olson should be recused, and I would entertain any kind of motion from the body to override my decision by majority vote if that such is deemed appropriate by either other member.
No, I'll just note for the record, traditionally we have allowed members to recuse themselves if they wish. I know that's not the way that, say, the legislature and some other bodies work, but this body has always, at least traditionally, worked that way. But I have no objection.
I'd rather have it backed up by the chair too.
Yeah, no, that's my.
I'm not overriding.
Yeah, I think for this, I've never liked that practice of people asking to be recused and then being voted over against their own conscience of impartiality.
Yeah, right.
I think that's a terrible practice, and I would certainly not. I would prefer. I would just hope that, state my opinion on the record that that's not been our traditional practice, and I would prefer us not to practice it that way. But I have no objections to your ruling otherwise, and Joan's request to be recused.
Okay. So with that, then I would request that Wilson step down and join the audience.
Would you like me to leave this here?
I think you should leave that there.
Okay.
Join the audience for the purpose of the interviews.
I'm actually legally deaf, and I'm having a super hard time hearing. The only time I can actually hear you guys is through mics mostly, and I don't know if it's okay if I move closer.
Sure,
I
that's
mean, I
fine.
have hearing aids, but it's still very difficult without mics.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
Would you
fine.
take my chair?
Okay, so we've dealt with the recusal issue. Do I have then a motion to move to executive session? I guess I could that goes back to the same question of with Joan recused from the proceeding, is it appropriate for her to remain in executive session, or should she be treated as a member of the public for purposes of executive session attendance?
I would think that she would be treated as a member of the public for purposes of attendance because, she's precluded from taking any official action, which includes participation in a process, including deliberation. So I would think that the more appropriate thing to do would be to exclude her from executive session.
Okay.
So
Gotcha.
will you contact me when it's over? My office
Yes.
is right across the street.
Certainly, yeah. So what's the best way for us to contact you? I realize that we don't have your phone
I have
number.
your text. So, let me give you my phone number. I'll write it down. Give me that to me.
Okay.
We don't get to like send us what smoke or what smoke we're
Well, we just had this whole, we were just like, we don't have any way to reach Joan. And so she's like, please, and we're supposed to get in touch with her. We don't have any way to reach Joan.
So you know. Okay.
Okay, Joan, we will text you.
Thank you.
So I move that we move into executive session for discussion of potential violation 2022-02.
And specifically for a discussion with the complainant, correct? For this
Yes.
executive session.
Do we need to do these in separate executive sessions, or can we go into one?
Yeah, we need
yes.
to do
Okay,
separate.
so we're in the first executive session for discussion with complainant in this matter.
Correct. Okay.
Okay.
And do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I support that motion. So that motion carries, and we'll move into executive session. So that, some of our hour, we will let you know when we are concluding this executive session, and you can come back in. But for this,
So I'm not allowed to stay in the executive session?
you're not allowed to stay in an executive session. It's only members of the body and then
Okay.
the complainant.
Only members, just so I can hear, I'm really
Oh, I
sorry.
apologize. I know I talked
Only,
very
no,
fast.
it's fine.
too.
Only members of the body, you guys, are allowed to be in this executive session.
Correct.
Okay.
Supporting staff and then the witness who we are hearing from. So we'll hear first
So
from
wait a minute. So you're saying that the witness, I can't be in with the witness?
Yeah, nor can she be in when we speak with you.
You sure?
Yes.
Because I was told different.
Okay. We pursue it to the, as I explained, so what we do is we follow the Open Meetings Act, which says that we may consider an executive session matters which by ordinance
So
are
you're not allowed to
required to
face
be
your accuser in
confidential.
these type of meetings.
The way that we are directed by code to do what we're directed to do by code is to keep confidential the accusation to the extent feasible by in the course of our investigation.
I'll go upstairs and speak to the attorneys that I've spoken to about that, because they said I was able to be in those meetings.
Understood.
They said something about right to face your accuser.
Okay. Understood.
Okay, thank you.
All right,
Be back.
Thanks. You could go let her know that if that way such a waiver occurs, she may be able to attend the additional interviews if she would like to. And I didn't mean to put you on the spot of what is our,
okay.
but I know like we traditionally at the Department of Law advise on those. There's tons of them. They come through a
Sure,
section.
advise APD, but not individuals.
Oh yeah, no, we advise APD, but we would be able to tell them where to go at least. Like here's the website.
Madam
Yeah,
Chair,
And I
and I
want her
think,
to know. Yeah.
I want to take a quick bathroom.
Yeah, go for it. That's what I want to make sure that she has is just the website and the fact that how do you get this from MPD? I mean, every police, like every news person,
Right,
except
and
Zachariah Hughes to advise her. But-
Right, exactly. When I talked with her on the phone at one point about it, she did say that, that she had requested it, but that she was denied because, or that she was not willing to, sign, that she wasn't willing to sue, which I interpreted as like an exception to the public records request form.
Yeah,
but
the
not
form.
for
Yeah, the form
litigation
says the specific APD form says that you will receive unredacted records, and you waive any complaint against APD for producing and providing you with the unredacted records. It's a very specific and targeted waiver. So, I mean, she can object to that as well, but it's not. She framed it as something more broad that was concerning to me. My only interest is in making sure that she knows like this is where the website is. You can file it if you want to, and if you don't want to, then
It was my understanding that she did at least have requested, that she did at least make a request, but according to APD, didn't have any official record of her request. So we got it for our purposes. And
This is
she
my good government approach. I think she should know this is again where you can go and then get access to your records. If you don't want to, you don't want to.
Yeah, and I know that, she had sent an email, and when I asked her if she had a copy of it, because I went to her first, she had a copy of it. So.
Okay, I'm ready for your motion to move into executive session again.
Okay.
Do we want to though stay in open session and bring the respondent?
Well, no. Our next interview was
Oh.
supposed to be with reporting the arresting officer.
Okay.
That's who we had scheduled next. Madam Clerk, do we have our witness present?
They're out there, yeah.
They're out there. Okay, so then I think we would. What our motion would be to move into executive session. At which point we would clear the room, speak with the witness in executive session about the potential waiver of the right to confidentiality, and then make a determination about whether to proceed in executive session or open session.
Okay.
Oh, hello. Oh, okay, we're still in open session.
We're in open session. We've not yet entertained an executive motion to move into executive session, so you can keep the door open. We should find our next witness.
Valerie's here.
No, Miss.
We have to just pop it up. No.
To the door.
Oh,
Hello.
Hello.
I'm sitting close so I can hear. Sorry.
Officer Jackson.
I am.
Perfect. Thank you for being with us.
No problem.
All right. So procedurally, Board of Ethics is now in open session. We will, at this point, I will entertain a motion to move back into executive session for the interview of Officer Jackson. And once we are in executive session, we can discuss with you, Officer Jackson, our process and legal requirements around confidentiality, and the question of whether you may choose to waive confidentiality, which would then result in us returning to open session. We will have that discussion in executive session. A lot of gymnastics.
You like to make people go in and out of the
Yes.
door.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Am I allowed to bring in any witnesses?
If there are other people you think we should speak with as part of our investigation, certainly we suggest them, and we can invite
Miss
them to
Kennedy
speak
was
with
there
us.
and didn't leave the dais the whole time, and she said she would be more than happy to testify.
Okay.
We could reach her by phone.
Okay,
Okay.
that's good to know. All right, do I have a motion to move into executive session for a member of the board?
So moved.
Second?
All right, so with that, we will, Madam Clerk, please transition us to executive session.
Okay, we're back in open session.
I'm 100% over the time that I allocated to this.
That's never happened to us before.
Oh, good thing we already preemptively scheduled a follow-up special meeting because
Your lesson
I have
as
a hard
chair.
stop at 4:30, so I will need to depart then for my work meeting.
It always takes longer than this.
Okay,
Okay, I'm back in.
we're back in open session. And at this point, I will entertain, and I apologize, everyone just sat down, a motion from the board to move into our final executive session where we will speak with you, Councilmember Allard. And again, while we're in executive session, there is the question of whether you would prefer to retain confidentiality or waive confidentiality, but we will do that in executive session. And we will otherwise clear the room of members of the public. So I will entertain a motion from the board.
So moved.
Second?
Okay. Madam Clerk. Thank you.
Okay, we are in open session.
All right. So the Board of Ethics is back in open session to continue our conversation with Assemblymember Allard, respondent in ethics complaint for potential violation 2022-2. Ms. Allard, I understand that you have a copy of the complaint, that you received a copy of the complaint.
I don't have a hard copy. I have it on my
Okay.
email.
Do we have an extra copy that we might have for reference from Ms. Allard?
Since it's open, is it okay if we call Miss Kennedy so she can listen?
Sure, if she'd like to, can she call in? Do we have a dial-in number usually?
I can have
I
Gina
could-
come down and set it up.
Okay.
And then kind of dial in for our virtual meeting.
I know
And
we've
then we don't-
become acclimated to
Right.
the virtual setting.
Thank you. Do you have a copy of the police report?
We do,
Okay.
yes. Would you prefer that we wait for the technology to be resolved for Ms. Kennedy to be on the phone?
Is the board calling Ms. Kennedy or is Assemblymember Allard calling Ms. Kennedy?
My phone's about to die, so I don't
I
mind
think-
calling her on the electronic system.
I think we should call her on, this system is better for recording, right, to have her on that phone?
Okay.
I wasn't
I
sure if
guess
we
I
had
just
it.
wasn't sure if there was proceedings that we needed to invite her.
I do have her cell phone because she's up at the cabin.
Could you come down and help me with the phone? Thanks. Maybe I don't need her help. What's her number?
It's 907-351-1430.
Hello, this is Crystal.
Hi, Crystal. This is Jamie Hines. I am staff here to a Board of Ethics meeting, and the Board of Ethics and Miss Allard have requested to give you a call. Do you have a minute to speak with the board and Miss Allard?
I think she's
Yeah.
participating as a member
Yeah,
of the public
at this
right
point,
now.
we should just need a member of the audience, right? Because we are currently discussing the matter with Ms. Allard, and so she's welcome to listen in and invited to listen in
And
because this is an
become a witness.
open session, and we make the board may elect to then ask her questions too.
Oh, okay. Okay. Did you catch all that, Mrs. Kennedy?
I heard something about somebody was listening in. Ms. Allard was listening in.
So Ms. Allard is here, and you are participating as a member of the public as the Board of Ethics has a conversation with Ms. Allard.
Okay.
If you want to. I mean,
If you would like to, you're not compelled to. This is entirely an invitation to be present.
Sure. I mean, that's fine.
Okay. All right. So then, continuing on, so we confirmed you have a copy of the complaint. So I would say I would open with the same question I have asked others today, which is turn it to you to give us a description of, from your perspective, what happened on the night described in the complaint with respect to this interaction with Dr. Child. And turn it to you to tell us anything you think we should know in terms of your perspective on this event.
I honestly don't really have much to say, except for the fact I was sitting at the dais. I was approached 2 separate times, asked her to step away. The individual in this child was saying things that were absolutely out of line, telling us that we were going to kill children if we didn't follow masking and vaccinating. I can't even recall the entire conversations. I know that the crowd was upset. I wasn't down in the crowd to hear what they were talking about or discussing. I didn't leave my seat at all. And if I'm looking at the report, going back from memory, I think she said in here somewhere that I asked the police, informed police officer. I had nothing to do with anything that the police did. It's not my role.
Do you remember talking to the police at all that night? I understand that Chief McCoy was there and Deputy Chief Curl, and along with a number of other officers.
I don't know if Chief Carl was there. I thought
the police report details Chief McCoy being there. This is the basis for. So I know he was present, but it doesn't even talk to him.
Yeah, I don't know if Chief Carl was there, but I know at that time it was Chief of Police. Was he? Was McCoy still the Chief of Police? Okay, so yeah, I guess he was there.
Okay, but you don't recall talking to him. Do you recall talking to him or any of the other officers present?
The only thing I said is I just want to make sure the public stays away from the dais, and that was it. I don't even know if I said it to a police officer or a security guard. I know that the muni manager at one point had come over and addressed. I don't know what the conversation was, though.
Came over to you to address the situation, or came over to the police?
No, she said, I'll take care of things, and I said, okay.
Okay.
Did you raise concerns with Mr. Constant or any other assembly person? That
I don't even
complaint
remember having a
had-
conversation. It was so chaotic that night. I honestly don't remember having a conversation. The only person I do remember speaking with was Chris, and I don't talk. Was Crystal Kennedy. And then we got up and we left the room at a certain point. I don't even know. I don't know. There was a recess. I don't remember because it was so long ago. I don't know if there was a recess. I do remember. I don't know if it was before dinner or after dinner. I'm trying to go through I just don't remember. And I didn't go back to watch any of the video or anything because I didn't want it to interfere with my memory of what I do or don't recall. So, but I know Miss Kennedy recalls a lot more than I do. So. I will say that I was concerned when numerous people were coming up to the dais. It was a little overwhelming. I was concerned of the mannerism in which people were carrying themselves in a threatening manner. Wasn't comfortable with it at all, and just wanted out of the situation. And I asked the public to step back and not approach the dais. And I think now we have little barriers up in front of the dais.
So you made that sort of public statement, and then the city manager came to you and said, "I'll
Well,
take care of it."
I didn't make it a public statement.
Okay.
Not that I recall, but so when you're at the dais, they're all here.
Right.
And that's when I do recall saying to Ms. Childs, don't come any closer. I don't know what you're saying. I'm not going to have this argument with you. I'm not going to have this conversation with you. Go away. You need to back off. And then the meeting manager had seen, and she said, I'll take care of this. And I said, okay. And then what Amy did after, Ms. Domboski did after that, I don't know. But I do know that we then all left because I know Crystal stayed there for the rest of the evening. She didn't leave that to go upstairs or anything like that.
Did you left for the dinner break or for the?
What's that?
Did you leave for the dinner break? Or
I did.
Okay, got
Yeah,
it. So that's the dinner break.
I left for the dinner break.
And Miss Kennedy remained behind.
Yeah, she can testify to that. That's why I have her on
Okay.
here today and what she experienced and the threats that she incurred.
I think you started off by saying that Ms. Child approached you twice. Was that twice in one day, or were those on 2 different days, or do you recall?
Ooh. I don't know if it was from the night before or if it was 2 different nights or the same night. It was a long 2 days.
Okay.
So I honestly can tell you, I don't know if it was 2 separate days. Could have been,
Okay.
but I don't know for sure. My memory is coming from the final evening when it was just several people were arrested those nights. It
Okay.
wasn't just one, several members of the community,
Okay.
if I recall.
Did you know Dr. Child before those interactions?
Never met her before those chamber interactions. Never.
Okay. And do you remember what, if anything, you said to her, other than "please don't approach" or whatever?
I don't even know what the conversation was.
Okay.
I know she was upset about masking or vaccines, and I said it doesn't matter. It's not my role as government. It was, I guess, normal back and forth conversation, and I don't want to have the conversation anymore because it was getting aggressive, and I didn't want to be in a situation like that. I wanted to move myself from this situation.
Do you have any recollection of what precipitated the arrests that evening? Any specific event
I have
or
nothing to do with that.
direction?
Nope, none of my
No
business.
recollection?
I don't work for the APD. The APD does not work for me. Security doesn't answer to me. They answer to the chair. The APD answers to the mayor, the meeting manager. I have nothing to do with what they do. It's up to them what they see and what they it's not my role. And I would never tell the APD what to do.
So you didn't send anyone
I don't have
out to
that authority.
APD?
No,
You didn't
absolutely
go to any
not.
of the staffers and say, hey, there's a
You
problem?
honestly-
Even just to say, hey, there's a problem, you better tell APD there's a problem.
No, that's when they were at the dais, Ms. Domboski had noticed it, and I know Ms. Kennedy had noticed it too, and that's when she came over because it was a lot going on. Yeah, I don't have anything to do with the APD.
Does Assembly have staff these days? Do you guys have staffers, and do they come to meetings, or do they?
Might have before in the past,
Okay.
but I don't know I don't know any of the other Assembly members' staff. If you're talking like legislative staff, like legislative aides that we all use,
Yeah.
I don't know.
You don't know.
I mean, what I mean by I don't know is if I'm up on the, first of all, I can't see past the podium because I have my glasses. But other than that, if somebody asks their staff and stuff to be there, I don't scan the crowd to see who staff's there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do you guys have personal staff? This has changed a bit since I was at the meeting.
My
I think you
personal
guys have more. You have personal staff and then also shared staff, or do you?
I don't share my staff with anybody.
You have personal staff.
Yeah.
Okay.
So my professional staff have come in the past to testify as community members.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because they weren't there. I asked because there was a question that APD officer recalled some staffer coming out to talk to him, and I was trying to figure out which staff are present at the.
Oh, I have no idea. I mean, my aides know that I have an ethics thing, but we didn't talk about.
Oh no, not here, but at the assembly meeting itself. Like that assembly meeting, would there have been assembly staffers that worked for you
I don't think a
guys?
staffer would ever approach APD like that. In my opinion, I don't think they would ever do such a thing. It's out of their role.
But they might have been. There were staff. There would have been assembly staff there at the meeting. This is my question: was whether do you guys have staff? Would you have had staff that were at the meeting that night? your recollection.
I would have to ask my staff if they were there.
Okay. And you,
But I never asked them because they never said, oh, I was there, I remember. I don't know.
okay.
We literally talk about my calendar and assembly ordinances and agenda stuff. Nothing, I don't dabble into this with my staff.
Okay. I think that concludes my questions, unless we should take further questions.
I think that's, so what you recall then is that you had a conversation with Dr. Child. It was a back and forth kind of political conversation, but at a certain point you felt threatened and you said, back away from the dais.
Well, it wasn't just her that was up there alone. So I don't want to say that. There was her and there were other people there, if I recall. There were like 4 or 5 people. And so people were concerned. I don't even know what was going on that night. I'd have to go back and look at the agenda. I don't know what we were voting on. I don't know why people were upset. And so I do know it was just a lot of folks there. And Miss Kennedy's, I think she was 2 spots over. So we're in the same row. So they were forming all along there. And I do just recall saying, okay, I'm done. I don't want to continue anymore. Like, I'm not going to discuss this anymore. Because I do remember saying, I didn't even know until I saw this, and then I heard later she was a doctor. I literally thought it was somebody with mental issues who had come forward and was just losing their mind. And I thought, well, maybe they're dressed up as a coat because they're trying to get attention. I had no idea. So when a person came up and was saying that we were going to kill children and we were going to be responsible for people dying in the streets, at that point the conversation just needed to stop. Because I have children. I do remember asking her if she did. She said she didn't. And then I said, then don't tell me what I can and can't do with my children. This conversation's over because I don't want my family and someone threatening, saying I'm going to murder people in a conversation. I just don't want to be a part of it.
So at a certain point, you say, I want people away from the dais. You say that sort of like to them, the group of them? Then?
Yes.
Okay. And then the city manager came over and said, I'll take care of it.
Yeah, yes. I think I just was like over there and I looked and Crystal was there and I saw Amy come our direction and was like, I got this. And I said, okay. And then I want to say they left. I left. I went upstairs and Miss Kennedy stayed there. What happened after that, I don't know. I don't even know if we went from a recess back in, but I just don't know. It wasn't... there's so much going on and so many disruptions and so much things that have been happening in the last 2 years. Like, I don't even know where most of the time where I leave my phone. Like, there's just too much going on. So that night, I have to honestly tell you, I don't know. I just don't. It was just so, yeah.
So do you recall later Dr. Child being up at the podium trying to speak
Twice.
Or in line or anything? Not when she was up
at
the podium.
Oh, yeah.
Do you
There were a
remember,
whole bunch of people trying to speak that night at the
do you
podium.
remember that she was there?
Yeah, I remember her being at the podium.
Okay, so
I'm only focusing on the dais part. But
Understood.
yes, I do
Okay.
remember her being at the podium. Absolutely.
okay, and did you have a concern with her speaking at the podium?
Why would I?
I'm just so I think part of the allegation is that there was a concern coming from somewhere, and I think we're a little unclear from where, that she had jumped the line, that she had skipped the line.
Oh, that's nothing to do with me. That had something to do with security. The individuals that were complaining about all the chaos going on at the podium, they took that to Bruce and the chair. I don't have anything to do with that.
Okay, I was going to ask. I'm sorry, I'm not
Okay.
familiar with.
I'm sorry.
With assembly procedure.
Yeah.
So you're sitting up, where you sit. You look out at the podium, and there's a line of people to speak.
I don't even know if it was lying. Like, it was.
There was a mob of
There
people
was a
trying to
lot of
speak.
people that were on. It was a crowded night.
Sure.
It was absolutely a crowded night. So
Okay.
what they've decided, what they do, I have nothing to do with.
I was going to ask, how do you have any influence over who at the podium gets to speak first? How that line is formed?
No,
Or that's
and
not
I will be
something-
honest, if you've ever watched the assembly meetings, I absolutely have no impact what the chair decides and what she does and doesn't do, or the co-chair for that matter.
And it's the chair who calls on someone
Absolutely,
to speak.
yeah, the chair decides everything that can and cannot happen in that chamber. So if she says, no, this person has the right to speak, or this person was in line first, that's up to the chair. we've done stuff like we've extended testimony,
Right.
saying, could this person come up first because they're a child and they need to get home sooner and they're underage, things like that. But I don't have any role in saying who could speak first or not.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Why am I actually here? What am I actually being accused of?
So we look at
I mean, I
this-
read the report, but what is the actual bottom line accusation?
Well, so you have the complaint. The framework we look at it through is we look at the framework of the use of municipal resources for political purpose and proper use of it. And so what we like, so you know our process. What we do is we receive complaints, and if we see if the complaint makes a cognizable claim that would be a violation of the municipal code of ethics, if true, we accept it for investigation, which gets us to this phase. So our framework when we looked at this was, if an assembly member were to use their position to direct a member of the police to arrest someone in order to influence the tenor of testimony heard at an assembly meeting, that would be an inappropriate use of that assembly member's role for political purposes. So that's the framework that we
Okay,
look
I
at as a
understand
as a
No,
ethic.
I don't have anything to do with APD. And it clearly didn't because I wasn't even in the police report, nor was I mentioned. So I have no role, and even if I demanded APD to do something, they wouldn't listen to me. That's not their role. They're not there. And I know this because Amy had spoken to us before because certain members of the assembly have demanded that individuals be arrested. And the APD said, no, you have to write a report for that. So if you're looking at ethics, there are assembly members that have directed APD to arrest community members. And when I was briefed on that, I was informed at that time, I think maybe it was a little bit before that, but APD is not there to protect assembly members. That is not their job, nor is it their function. And I was told that by Chief Curl, too, after he became the chief of police.
All right. I think that concludes the questions that I have.
I don't have anything else.
So am I able to have Ms. Kennedy speak on my behalf of her memory of that night?
Generally speaking, what the board will do is ask, I would say we usually say, what, are there other people we would like to speak to? Personally, from the interviews we've had today, I would like to potentially hear from Ms. Kennedy and potentially also Mr. Constant. I don't know what members of the board, the will of the board is as to whether others have questions for Ms. Kennedy and potentially for other individuals as well. We could adjourn into deliberative session. Usually, I feel like we have a little out of order because sometimes we would go to deliberative session and talk about, where are we right now? What would we? But if we entertain a slightly out of order question.
I don't feel like I need to talk to anyone else. However, my view has always been that if anyone on the board wants to talk to anyone else, then I would be in favor of that.
Ms. Pallison, or should we adjourn to deliberative session and we could pick up? Generally speaking, we don't move wildly quickly. What we would do is move to deliberative session, talk about where we are, and then potentially extend an invitation to Ms. Kennedy if we had further questions for her.
Yeah, Ms. Kennedy was there and she was witness. And for her to be able to speak up and say what she saw or didn't see, I think could resolve a lot of questions or issues and maybe do a little clarification.
Should we move to deliberative session, or would you discuss, and then we can give Ms. Kennedy a call back if we'd like to speak with her today, or potentially in the future. We have a hard stop at 4:15, 4:30 too, so that is our other timing challenge. What's the will of the body?
Well, would you like to talk to her? I mean, so you suggested that you.
I could probably go either way. But
I think it might be helpful to move into deliberative session even briefly.
Just consider where we'd like to go.
Yeah, I hate to waste people's time. And I'm not sure that I feel like I need to hear from anyone else. I do appreciate you saying that she's a witness and that, suggesting other people we might want to talk to. But if it's not necessary, then I don't think we need to
Okay.
do it. So,
Do I hear a motion from the body to move into deliberative session and this is again pursuant to the Open Meetings Act, we, in a deliberative session, we are outside of the scope of the requirement of open attendance at the meeting, so if we move into deliberative session, we will not record and we will deliberate about our consideration of the matter. Do I have a motion from the board to move into deliberative session?
So moved.
second.
All right, so thank you all very much for your
Thanks.
time. I appreciate all of your time and attention to public service and to ethics in municipal government. And thank you, Ms. Kennedy, for listening in. We will circle back to you if we have further questions.
That would be great. Thank you.
All right, Madam Clerk, you move us into a deliberative session, but I will take what I have where I have my notes, because if, for instance, I am nominated to write this opinion, I will have the notes. All right, we're in open session. Okay, we're back in open session. We unfortunately are at the end of our time today, having just concluded deliberative session regarding ethics complaint for potential violation 2022-2. Do we have a motion from the board regarding our new business items, which we have been unable to reach today, items 7A through D on the agenda?
I move that we postpone those items until our next meeting.
So our special meeting scheduled for August 3rd?
Yes.
Okay.
Are we going to put our unfinished business and
Before.
our new business at the special meeting, or are we?
I think we should try to get through as much of it as we
Okay.
can.
Also, at least have it all on the agenda, right?
Yes, and then
Sure.
we'll carry it over if we have to. So you have a
Okay.
second for that motion?
Second.
And I support that motion, so that motion carries. So that means, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Do we need to say what we are doing about the matter we just discussed, 2022-2?
Discussion, we will continue discussion of that to our meeting, our special meeting, and request that the clerk's office circulate the video of the incident in question to the relevant board members for review prior to that meeting.
And the next meeting was virtual, is that correct?
Correct, the next meeting will be virtual. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All right, we stand adjourned. Thank you all.